more questions that I ask and find, it's like my guidance system is always helping me look for things that feel better. And as I take the conscious decision to do that, life is just magical. Heart is where the feelings need to be. The heart is the most attractive vibrational center in your body that will bring things to you. So you're feeling those feelings in your heart, you're connected to your heart, and you let yourself go to sleep in that place. That will give you amazing manifestations. When you're in pain or when you're in lack and you want abundance, it's too big of a jump. So what you have to do is you have to find a way to not focus on your pain, distract yourself from the pain. Because if you're so focused on what is, you can't allow room for anything else new to come in. And so you have to find a way to get outside of what's going on, the reality that you're experiencing. And there's many different modalities that you can use to do that. But when you feel relief, you know you're going in the right direction. The only reason why anything's not happening is because you're not allowing it to. You're not giving yourself a strong enough why. If your why is strong enough, the how will automatically fill in. But the most important thing is you need to be clear about what it is that you want and why you want it, and remind yourself of that every second of every day, because that's how you start to shift quickly, is that you just stay connected to that why. The why is really always the feeling. Why do you want anything? Because of how it will make you feel. And if you keep remembering that, then you will close that gap, and the thoughts and the feelings and the beliefs will start to shift. And as you change your vibration and stay connected to the why, all of the things to support that why will come in. Life is meant to be lived to the fullest, extracting the most fun out of every moment and just making the most out of it all. To be comfortable with where you're at right now and take the conscious decision to move in the direction of what feels even better. So you're always going to have things and experiences that aren't going to go your way. That's part of life. If we didn't have any resistance, we wouldn't have a physical form. Life is just magical.
Welcome to the Awakening Entrepreneur Podcast. This show is for entrepreneurs that have chosen to define their life beyond the material. They have followed their soul on a hero's journey towards the mystery of the spiritual. I'm your host, Garrett Ng. Each episode will be learning from awakened entrepreneurs and spiritual thought leaders. They have broken through the mold of being ordinary to extraordinary, challenging our paradigm, shining light to the dark, giving hope when there is doubt. The moment of truth is upon us. It is time to transcend our world from fear to love. Are you ready? Let's go! Welcome to this week Awakening Entrepreneur Podcast. I've got a Tony Robbins Platinum Partner sisters of mine. Her name is Cherilyn Jones. She's a Dolphin Trainer turned intuitive coach and healer. That's so amazing. Especially, I'm going to learn from her. Some people say that our ancestors actually the dolphin in the whales. So it's fascinating. She healed herself of cancer at the age of 25. Like, I'm not going to tell you what her age is, but she's been in this game for some time. And that ignited a fire to understand the deeper meaning of life, how she could make the most of her life and to express her true nature. She's been helping people to do the same ever since. And I don't know how she's been coaching hundreds of thousands of people, a lot of raving fans, and more magic, synchronicity, dreams coming true. She's living off on the road right now in a massive adventure I want to learn more about. She's manifesting stuff left, right, and center. So welcome, Cherilyn.
That was an amazing introduction. Well, thank you. I'm so honored to be here. I'm excited about having some fun with you. A good conversation as well.
So a lot of my most profound podcasts of late is just randomly I get intuition to ask someone or to reach out to someone that I've never met to get them on a podcast. And you're one of these people. I don't know, like I've seen you in our group chat for some time. I haven't spoken to you personally. We've texted each other. It was just like, right, it's time to see whether she's be willing to share her story on the Awakening Entrepreneur Podcast. And thank you for allowing your time to share your story.
Yes, it's again my pleasure. And I love that you said it was your intuition, because that's what I live by. Just trusting and listening to those impulses and those messages. So I'm glad you listened, and I'm really happy to be here.
Wow. So tell me, why are you on an RV right now? Have you been on an RV like for just recently?
Yeah.
Have you been on the road for some time?
No, and I actually haven't been on the road. I've been stationary on the beach in Locadia, California, which is a very kind of spiritual coastal town in Encinitas. And I just got the intuition and impulse to go on the road. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm packing everything up and getting ready to just go and meet and see people and really get in nature and explore cities and find hidden gems and just make the most out of this United States. I haven't spent enough time on the road here. I've been traveling all over the world, but here in my own country, I haven't actually extracted all the richness out of each city. So that's my intention, is to take some time and do that this year.
From a non-spirituality, more practicality, like I'm the same, like I've been around the world, but haven't traveled Australia. And the thought of being on an RV really like is interesting to me and to my wife, and also maybe even go on New Zealand as well. But I've never been on. Have you had much experience, especially like pumping of the toilets and all these other things to maintain the RV?
Oh yeah, I've done it. So this is why I'm doing it, because one of the things that I love is the simplicity of living, the minimalist living. So I got rid of 98% of my personal possessions. I kept my Tesla, I kept obviously my dogs, and just some things that were very important to me that held value or purpose. And everything else I just gave away. And I feel so free. And I'm sure one day I'll want my big house and everything again. But right now it just feels really nice just being more in nature. I live next to a park. I'm out in the park. There are 3 times a day. And I make it a point to go and explore this town. So I've walked everywhere and just really enjoyed it. And that's kind of my intention. But to answer your question, yes, I did have some experience from before. Previously, my husband was in the military and he would be gone for 6 months at a time. And we had an RV together. And I didn't want to sit at home and not enjoy our RV when he wasn't with me. So I learned how to tow and back up and do all of those things on my own. And once you do it, you get the courage, you get the confidence. Once you learn, it's like anything, like riding a bike. Once you learn how to do it, it becomes easy. And as you do things, you just keep learning and learning. And YouTube has been my friend, I have to say. YouTube has every answer. It's like Dr. Google, right? So yes, I know how to do all of that. I feel very confident and competent, and enough so that I'm ready to go back on the road and just be free and have fun.
So how much research, like, because obviously it's not as nimble as a car, how much research, where can you actually park? Are there certain roads that you don't want to enter into? Or are there certain apps that say like, RV, like stay on this path?
Right. So there's so many forums and so many resources for that kind of stuff. You can go as deep as you want, or you can just kind of get the bare minimum of what's important. But yeah, access to roads and things like that. They actually have specific maps that will tell you, if you put in that you're an RV, that tell you where you can't go, like GPS, Google will do that for you. And it depends upon what kind of setup you have. So I've towed 33-foot fifth wheels with the truck. And then I've also been in an RV motorhome that's 33 feet. So I'm comfortable with that kind of stuff. But yes, there is lots of information out there that you can look into.
Wow.
Most importantly, though, it's about understanding your vehicle, the weight, the brakes, and things like that. Because if you're going up really big grades, inclement weather, those are important things to know beforehand. So just making sure that you're just aware. For me, as long as I'm connected and I have my intuition, I'm solid. I always trust it. I've always found that it's taking care of me. And so that's the most important resource that I have.
Wow, fascinating. So now going back to the backstory, have you always been guided by intuition and connected to source, to divine? Like upbringing is very different.
Yeah, no, I think we're all connected. I don't think there's not one of us that isn't, or else we wouldn't be alive, to be honest. It's just the amount of connection that we're receiving and we're listening to and acting upon. And I think we all get in different ways and we respond to it in different ways. And so growing up, I wasn't raised with a devout religion or anything like that. My family had a religious background, but we weren't raised in that. And my mom and I were very in sync. I would say our intuition, she would know when I was in pain. It's always been that way with us. We have that, sixth sense connection. But I never had any spirituality as far as, understanding or background until I was 25, when I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And that's what kind of instigated this whole spiritual journey. But as far as being raised in it, no, I didn't have any kind of teachers or mentors or anything like that. It was just kind of life, environment, and so forth.
So tell me about experiencing cancer and how did that transform you?
Yeah, it was a huge blessing in my life. At the time, I was working my dream job as a dolphin trainer in Hawaii, something I knew I would always be since I was a little girl. But I was 5 figures of debt and student loans. I was working 3 jobs. So I was working 40 plus hours as a dolphin trainer in the sun, labor work every day. And then when I got off from there, I wait tables at Outback Steakhouse. And I did that from like 5 until 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And then on my days off, I worked on a dive boat. So So I literally worked for a whole year without one day off. And I just burnt myself to the ground so that I was sick. I ended up having cancer. And it really helped me.
Were you saving up for something?
It was a cost of living in Hawaii, and I had student loan debt because, I had a lot of education for getting into that field. And so there was just a lot of debt from school. And then the cost of living there was just really, really expensive. And Dolphin Trainers, they make minimum wage. They start out making minimum wage, even with a 4-year degree. And I had specialized training on top of that. So it was just kind of like not being able to get ahead. Growing up, my father was really good with money, and having debt was just like, it was an insecurity of mine. I felt, worthless if I was in debt. That was kind of the association that I gave it. So it just caused a lot of negative emotion and limited beliefs that built up into a physical manifestation. So when I got the cancer, it was a huge wake-up call. And it was the first time that I ever really demanded. I kind of had this, there's a God, you better show yourself now kind of moment. And the next day, I was given a book called Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And I read that book so fast, and I felt like that was my answer, and to give me a new way of thinking. And it really had the intuition. I kind of had a message that came to me that just said, you can use this to heal yourself, just like he's telling you, your thoughts create your reality. Your thoughts created the cancer, but your thoughts can create healing too. And I had an intuitive kind of message that came to me in a dream telling me to find 3 cases of people that had terminal cancer that had 3 examples of how they cured themselves, and to follow that. And so I did the Gerson therapy, which I just did the juicing. I didn't do the whole therapy. It's just getting proper nutrition in your body. And then I did laughter therapy. So I watched hours of America's Funniest Home Videos for a couple hours a day. And then I did visualization. I had to visualize getting a clean bill of health from my doctor. And that all happened at my 90-day checkup, I was cured of cancer. So it happened very fast. And I had a complete turnaround. When I read Conversations with God, that got me really hungry to learn more about that. So I started reading other books and other teachers on law of attraction and spiritualism and things like that, New Thought, stuff like that. And I just have had a voracious appetite for learning ever since then, and I haven't stopped.
It's interesting. Like, I remember someone that you probably know, Scott Harris. We asked him, what book would you recommend? He recommended Return to Love by Marianne Williamson and Conversation with God. Those are the 2 books I've put down, and I listened to it. I really enjoyed it. But prior to my own personal spiritual awakening, it's almost like watching a good movie. Whoa! But now looking back, when we listen to the book or the wisdom that Neale Donald Walsch shares, it's like, holy smoke, like that's the truth. It's not a movie. This is, wow, it's very profound.
And I think it's about where you are. For me, my desire was so strong because I was faced with my own mortality. I was hungry for something to grab onto and to help me kind of understand life and what was going on and how I created this and what it meant. And not everybody is ready for that, I don't think, and that's okay. But at the time I was. And so I was very open to the message and very willing to experiment with it and give it my all. I had a lot at risk, so I was willing to put it all on the table and really try.
What was like after when you started going down this spiritual rabbit hole and looking into like conversations with God and understanding there's more to life than just the physical reality? The life started shifting, especially the life that you know of before, like your self-identity of who you are, your interests, your passion, your friends, and things that you used to associate with. What was that like?
So there's so many shifts that have occurred since then. I think it's an ongoing evolution and expansion that we're all on. And so for me, I radically changed my life in that the circle of friends and where I was at, it was a huge shift in my life, all over everything. There was family stuff that happened. There was relationship. That was when I met my life partner at the time, John Wayne, and my ex-husband. And so at the same time, his mother was dying of cancer. There was all these interesting synchronicities that occurred at this timing in my life. I would say that, just like everything, you just go through different levels of expansion and understanding. And I'm still, I go through different levels still at this point. And for me, it's just fun. It's kind of the wheel turns, you have your ups and your downs, but your booms and your busts. And it just, every level you kind of get to the top of it, then you get to the bottom of the next one, and then you get to the top of that one, then you're at the bottom of the next one. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of how it's been for me, where it's just a cyclical thing of growth and expansion, growth and expansion, growth and expansion.
Yeah, that's the perfect way. In fact, 2 days ago, I was explaining to my wife, it's almost like when you go through you're raising your consciousness and you're meditating, and people have the perception you this Zen-like person.
No.
Your meditation is not working. Like you were in your ego self and you're getting triggered. We're still human, having this human experience. But my experience of the awakening is almost like before, when you ups and downs you just describe, I say, well, imagine like a wheel, like a car tire or something, that one side, the upper side, you paint it as white, that the bottom side is black. And as the white goes on the ground, you go, oh my god, the white is touching the ground, it's getting dirty, oh my gosh, and you freak out, and then it's go to black, oh, it's okay now, and it goes back to the white, oh no, it's going to get dirty again, like being a clean freak and stuff. And then eventually, when you raise your consciousness, the tire is supposed to touch the ground, even the white stuff is supposed to touch the ground. That's part of the journey. This is how it's supposed to function. This is how the universe is supposed to function. And so when you evolve, we don't see the same tire, the white part touching the floor, we didn't get the same trigger. However, we're getting the same version in something else, like something that doesn't trigger us, or something that never triggered us. Like my son behaving a certain way in the past, I may just, hey, you are the problem, it's not me. But now it's like, Gary, you just raised your voice. Ooh, like what's going on?
Yeah. As we change, the way what we perceive changes, and how we respond and react changes. That's the ongoing evolution of the universe. So as we evolve, what we see and what we're able to perceive evolves. And so we may not understand or see things the same way because it wasn't relevant to us before. We weren't even, aware of it before. And now when we are, it's a different version of us experiencing it. Yes.
What can you say for people that are embarking on this awakening journey? What can they expect? Is it every single one is going to be unique, or is it going to get easier? It doesn't get easier? Is it different flavor? Like, what should they expect?
Well, I think that's just the question you would ask for anything. When you go into a new job or when you have a new relationship, it's like, it's really, who you take with you is going to be your experience. So every awakening is unique because it's based upon the perceptions of the person that's experiencing it. But are they looking forward to it? Are they eager? Or are they fretting it? Are they, it's like when you go to school, are you scared and nervous and insecure? Or are you excited and can't wait to meet new people? It really is about the person and where they're at. It never ends. It's not like you have an awakening and then you go to sleep, you're awake forever. No, you wake up and you go to sleep and you wake up and you go to sleep, just like we do in our daily life. We wake up, we go to sleep. Sometimes we have naps, sometimes we don't. I think there are some similarities that people can relate to that are relatable when they're having their awakening. A lot of times people, you may hear like my scenario where there was a traumatic event or some sort of crisis that evoked it. Other people, it's not necessary. They have a different way that it kind of evoked from them, or it was elicited from them. So I think it is unique, but I do hear of a lot of commonalities with different people that they can relate to, so to speak.
What are some of the commonality or stages that people go through that you've seen?
Well, I've seen many different representations of people describing stages of awakening. And I think a lot of them, most people can relate to. Basically, it's like where you're self-centered, or you're the victim, so to speak. And you think that you're just a byproduct of the environment or life circumstance. And it's all chaotic. There's no really explanation for the reason why everything is the way it is, other than just whatever your beliefs are. And then something happens, whether it's a crisis or some event, maybe it's contemplation or someone hands you a book, it's some significant event, most people will be able to say, this triggered my awakening. And then from there, you start to question, wow, what's behind all of this? Is there an explanation? Is there something more? And that gets the questions where then answers start to flow. And then synchronicity will bring, teachers and like-minded people to help you kind of evolve and expand in those different realms of understanding. But not everybody's awakening follows the same path as far as spirituality aspect of like the way and the explanation and the meaning and the things that they believe in, which I think is fun, and it's good to have variety. And so the similarities, I think, are just an event that causes you to start to question things and to really wonder what's behind all of this. Who are you? What is energy? What is thoughts? Do my thoughts influence my reality? And those questions will start to bring answers. But those are the basic similarities. I think it's just an event and questions with answers about the bigger picture of thing. And that's really, I would say, the basis of the similarities. Everything else so unique and so expansive and so diverse, which is good.
And it's possibly just the stage I'm at. The more that you start to unfold, and in past, like in this physical dimension, like you learn something, you learn maths, geometry, you learn certain things, like you learn it and you've got that skill. But it seems like the more doors you open, the more books you open, the more wealth of information. Holy cow, how do I not know this? But yet it's never ending. It's so much more to learn and grow into. But that's the part of the fun as well.
Exactly. There's a lot of different teachings out there, but one of the programs that I love is the circle of the square, when they say the pie. Okay, this is what you know. This is what, it's like, you don't know. And there's this, the most of the pie is like what you don't know that you don't even know. It's not even part of your reality. You can't even imagine that you don't know it because it's not even something that you can fathom. And that's really what you said, is like once you open a door, then you realize there's infinite more doors to open. You never finish. There's always going to be infinite more doors to open. But it is fun because you do feel, I think it's that level of like excitement and fulfillment when you get into something that resonates, and then you learn that, oh, wow, this is something that other people know and I didn't know, and now I know it. And then there's even more of that I don't know, and how much more, how far does the rabbit hole go? And it's a fun discovery, I think. It's self-discovery, but also infinite wisdom of discovery that you can look into.
So on this path of discovery, like I hear people like Sadhguru here just going internal and connected to source and downloading all this information. And we've got people like Deepak Chopra that's very intellectualized and studying a lot of like physics, science and stuff. Were there a particular strand or nation that you pursue, or multiple modality you pursued in this discovery process?
Yeah, for me, I love variety. So I love multiple modalities, and I love different authors and teachers. I love science. I love spirituality. I love when science and spirituality means, but I also go in and I get my own downloads, and I have my own connection. What I like from the style that I like is I get the downloads, and then synchronicity will bring me the validation from teachers and books and messages and things like that. That's my favorite. That's kind of been happening for a pretty good, consistent, maybe I would say 5 or 6 years now, where I've been getting the information and then will be validated, like Nassim Haramein, or, like stuff that I wouldn't understand the knowledge about. I have some limited understanding of quantum physics, verbiage and language. But then when I get a download of something, or like an equation, and I have no idea what it means, and I'm like, I'll be listening to something on YouTube, and then he'll come up and start talking about the same equation, and I'll be like, oh, like, thank you. Now I don't think where did it come from? And I'm not crazy, and I can it's the accuracy of it. So I think it's a combination. I think the fun of it for me is getting it first from my own guides and my inner being, or whoever you want to call it. And then I'll get a reflection from my environment, somebody else that got the same information, and they've been able to either test it or prove it or experiment with it, and working. And so it kind of gives me permission to start implementing it in my life, because I now have some other, kind of like students that are doing it as well along with me.
Wow. What are some of the books or teachers that you've really enjoyed? Because at the end of the day, what we shared, like, you can always tap into the information internally. So we don't need to be dependent on someone externally, but it's almost like it's entertainment or guide, or maybe whoever that you're learning from is still the source, like putting the information in front of you. So who have you really enjoyed learning from?
Yeah, so I have many, many teachers, but I would say kind of my basic foundation would be, I love Abraham Hicks, because the premise of what they teach, I think everybody in the world has this innate knowing that they want to just feel good. Whether it's they want more money, or they want a relationship, or they want a different job, it's the whole point is because they want to feel better. And I think that's our kind of internal guidance system that we've all had. And they teach that in a very simple way. Just, it's do anything that feels good. And they're really thorough about understanding what that means when they say feel good. It's, when you're in a good place and it feels good, and when you're connected to your inner being or your source, and you're connected to nature, those kind of things. So that's my kind of go-to foundational teacher. But I have many, many other teachers. I've been in this for a while. So I've been studying everyone from Wayne Dyer to Cherilyn Mason, Sonia Choquette to Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton. And it's just anyone that's kind of in this realm of transformation and personal development, as you know, Tony Robbins. And then I could go into the science and spirituality. Like I said, the Resonance Foundation, Nassim Haramein, I'm a huge fan. I know many, many channels. So Bashar, I know Wendy Kennedy, Cryon. I mean, I could give you infinite list of different teachers, but my favorites would be, I love the general teachings of Abraham Hicks. My favorite teaching, like if you were were to say a paraphrase or the formula by Bashar, it's, acting on your highest excitement to the best of your ability without any insistence on the outcome, taking it as far as you can until you can't take it any further. That's my life motto. That's how I live my life, through synchronicity and acting on my excitement. Then it just kind of goes like, what subject and what need do I have? And then there's so many teachers that fill with their own. I think the way I would describe it is, I think it's like a puzzle and they each have a piece. And everybody's puzzle is different. And so all of your authors and teachers aren't going to be the same, because your puzzle pieces are going to come from different places.
Yes.
Some of them might be the same, but it's all about what pieces you want to put in your puzzle. Or like, if life is a buffet and you have all these choices, what choices do you want to put on your plate and actually take back to the table? It could be different for everybody. It's not usually the same for everybody altogether, but you could have some similarities. To answer your question, I think Abraham is my foundational. Bashar, I love the formula. That's my favorite teaching of all teachings. And then from there, I love Neville Goddard. I'm a huge Neville Goddard fan.
Who's Neville Goddard? I've never heard of it.
Oh,
Most of the ones you've mentioned, I've heard of.
Man. Yeah. Okay, one of my favorite stories is from Neville and his teacher, Abdullah. Have you heard of Dr. Joseph Murphy, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind?
Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Joseph Murphy and Neville Goddard were both, their mentor was both Abdullah. And this was in the early 20s and 30s.
So as in the channeling.
No. He was a physical, actual.
Okay,
Yeah,
physical.
Abdullah.
Okay.
yeah, I know. A real. So no, this was in the early 1920s, 1930s. And Abdullah, this was in New York City. Neville Goddard was from Barbados. That was his home island. And he moved to New York City to be a dancer. And he was a time when there was light depression and he didn't have any work and he was struggling, but he was learning from this gentleman named Abdullah about spirituality and things like that. And the basis of the teaching is that your imagination creates your reality. Feeling gets the blessing, meaning like feeling as if your wish were fulfilled. That's how you draw it into your life. And I think that speaks volumes about manifestation. That's also what Abraham, it's what the basics of all teachings are about law of attraction, is the feeling is the magnetic attractor. So going to the thoughts will always create a feeling. And so really focusing on the thoughts and going, if you go straight to the feeling, you kind of bypass the needing to think specific thoughts. And everything that we want is because of the feeling that we want it for anyway. So if you just go to the feeling, then you're already kind of like that, going in and doing the fast track way. But one of my favorite stories is that he was learning and studying with Abdullah, and he hadn't been home in many, many years. And all of a sudden he had this desire to go home for Christmas. And to get to Barbados at that time was only by steamship. And the last steamship to get him home in time for Christmas was leaving on December 7th. And he was telling Abdullah, I don't know what has gotten over me. I don't have any money. I have no way to get there. It's really expensive, but I just have this burning desire to go back home to Barbados. He had a huge family. I think he had a lot of siblings. I can't remember how many. And Abdullah told him, he said, you're in Barbados. He's telling him, you're there. You're living. Everything is happening in this now moment. That reality of you exists now. All you have to do is believe it and feel it as if you're there. And he says, imagine you're walking along the coconut palmed streets of Barbados. And, he kind of did this descriptive visual thing. And he says, you've gone, you're in Barbados, now get away. And he told him to leave. And so I don't know, some time lapsed and there was nothing. And he's doubting that he's going to go. And his clock is ticking. And he says, he goes storming in there and he's like, Abdullah, but nothing's happening. He goes, now stop it. We've already had this discussion. The man you are, you've already gone in Barbados. So I don't want to hear anything about it. And he slammed the door and he booted him off. And then I think the next day, he got a letter in the mail from his brother with a ticket for a steamship to go to Barbados. And he gave him $50 for incidentals, which at that time was a decent amount of money, bought him a first class ticket. And so he went down to the steamship and, went to go cash in his ticket. And they said, yep, we have everything here. But unfortunately, we oversold. And we don't have any space in first class from New York City, I think, until somewhere in the Caribbean. I can't remember one of the islands they were stopping at. But once the passengers get off, you'll be able to come in and remain the remainder of the trip. And he was just so happy that his brother had said, this is the only time that all of us could be here for Christmas, because the oldest one left before the youngest one was born. And so he said, you must come. We know you're not working. We know you don't have anything else better to do. It was kind of like they were ordering him, we're making you come, it was their idea. And so he went to tell Abdullah, and Abdullah yelled at him and he says, "What are you talking about, third class? The man you are, you went first class to Barbados. I don't want to hear another word about it. Now get lost." And Ab was like, "What do you mean?" And Neville was like, "I'm going to Barbados. I'm so happy. Why are you, I don't care if I'm going third class." And sure enough, the next day when he went to get on the ship, he got bumped up to first class because someone didn't show up. And I love that story because every single time that he let doubts creep in, his teacher knew so strongly and so dominantly on his behalf that it carried his vibration. It literally carried, it's kind of like what healing, that's how healing occurs. You hold and know the dominant vibration so strongly that they have to match to that. They have to come to that and meet you there. And that's how he did. He learned. And that was kind of like, that's what got him on this journey to really learn it and know it. And he came back and he taught it for many, many years. And he has probably, of all the success stories of law of attraction, I think Neville has probably the most success stories recorded. He used to give talks and recorded talks and lectures, and they're all free on the public domain now. So it's kind of fun to listen to them.
I'll check it out. I also want to hear about your success story, because I know that you're a master manifester yourself, and you teaches a lot of your clients on how to achieve this. So I think one of the secret or the law of attraction, most people get the idea and enjoy the idea. What is difficult is for most people is when, let's just say, if you want to heal yourself and you're in physical pain, I want to imagine myself, but damn, like my back is hurting right now. Like, how do I... If I'm running out of money, I have no money, and the bills are coming in, I think about me being in paradise and having a big mansion. But as soon as the bill comes in, it's like, oh, well, the reality I have to worry about, I have to find ways to pay a bill. Like, so how do you overcome the logical stuff that you see around you, whether it's the lack or the scarcity that it projects, and still create the abundance or create the vision that you wanted to draw towards you?
So a couple things that I'll say to address that. Number one, I don't think even the people you would consider masters at manifestation really truly get the law of attraction. If they did, it would be so obvious. And so I'm not saying that to degrade anybody, but I'm just saying that I think it's a humbling thing. I think if we all really used it and applied it to the degree that is available to us and we really understood it, it would be so obvious that we would be doing magic like no one else's business, right? We'd be manifesting instantaneous. We would just be like probably flying everywhere. I don't know. We'd be doing things that would seem so impossible. And while I've had some amazing, magical, mystical, probably people would think I'm nuts if they heard me describe half the things I've experienced, I am in no way saying that I am a master at anything, because it's such a huge thing to be able to really use this and apply it. And I do a decent job, but I don't do anything to what I know is possible for me. What I say to that, as far as like, how do you do it? There's so many different belief systems that people have. And it's really about, stepping aside from your now reality and making the time to, I call it creation time. So every day I have creation time where I go in and I meditate, I clear my mind, I just give myself really still, and then I receive ideas, downloads, messages, etc. And then I go into kind of my workshop, my creation of what is it that I'm wanting to create, and I go to that place of that feeling. It's really the feeling as if I have many different tools that I use. It could be one of the most, I think, probably the beneficial tool, because it's about brainwaves and getting ourselves into that receptive mode, is right before bed. So I use the tool of Neville Goddard gives this tool. I want to give credit to him. Is where you imagine that you're going to sleep in your bed as if, say, that future event. So for example, if say I want to travel and I want to explore a place in Iowa, I don't know, I'm just thinking of some place I've never been and I want to extract the best, maybe like go and be in, a park there. I would imagine going to sleep in my camper bed in that place, in that park in Iowa, and feeling like looking over the field or whatever the scenery is, and just feeling like so blessed and so thankful for that day and for that adventure and that experience, as if I were going to sleep that night in the future, say 3 months from now. And that's just kind of an example, but the idea is that you're in your bed, going to sleep in your bed here now, June 30th, 2020, or whatever the day is, but you're imagining that it's August or September and you're asleep. And maybe if someone's looking for a partner, then they're imagining their partner with them. Or maybe if they want a new job, maybe they're imagining, like, thinking about their day from that job. Those are just some nuances, but the idea is, like, as you're falling into sleep, you're in that sleepy kind of in-between stage, and you're imagining, so you're going into that feeling place in your heart. Heart is where the feelings need to be. The heart is the most attractive vibrational center in your body that will bring things to you. So you're feeling those feelings in your heart, you're connected to your heart, and you're let yourself go to sleep in that place, that will give you amazing manifestations. Now, to speak about health and things like, yeah, when you're in pain or when you're in lack and you want abundance, it's too big of a jump. So what you have to do is you have to find a way to not focus on your pain, distract yourself from the pain. You got to watch a funny movie. You got to get yourself, because I've done that where we've been in pain and somebody else, something happens to them and we forget about our pain and we go and help them, or, or like we get distracted and all of a sudden we forgot we had pain and we're like, oh, wait, it just went away. What happened? Because you got distracted. So you have to find a way to distract yourself. That's the first thing, because if you're so focused on what is, you can't allow room for anything else new to come in. And so you have to find a way to get outside of what's going on, the reality that you're experiencing. And there's many different modalities that you can use to do that. But the most important thing is you'll know what works for you by the way it feels. When you feel relief, you know you're going in the right direction. So I could probably talk for hours about all different kinds of modalities, but the simplest, most productive tool is most of the time when people are going to sleep, they've been able to get themselves enough relief that they can go to sleep. So they're usually, if their pain is still there, it's not enough to keep them from going to sleep. But the idea is that as you're drifting into the sleep, to imagine yourself feeling as if you're in that moment of time in the future, drifting off into the bed, whether it's on vacation or in your new home or wherever you're going to be. Maybe it's in your same bed, but just in the future, and knowing and telling your subconscious and your body, giving it instructions, and then it gets to work on it all night long while you're asleep. So that's kind of another fast track of manifestation, of shifting realities very quickly, is to do that.
I love that. So for most people that are extremely busy, like even in that version of yourself where you have few jobs that's running at the same time, you could still do this because it only takes minutes and just before you fall asleep. I guess working with a lot of your clients, the ones that you've seen that's following this process, or maybe even using some additional modality, they work some visualization during the daytime and they're still not getting what they want. What do you see are the more common blockages that's preventing from achieving?
It's always excuses. This is something that's so key to know. Remember, your brain is designed to keep survival. It's there to keep you safe. Your mind will always keep you safe. So it's always scanning your environment, looking for what's familiar. And whatever familiar is safe and it's comfortable, and it will continue to perpetuate that. That's why many people have a hard time making change. Anything that's unfamiliar is considered risky. So anything new that you're wanting is already a risky scenario, considering from your brain's perspective, your mind's perspective. And so when you're trying to make change, even new thoughts, new beliefs, new actions are going to be difficult at first, because it's just like when you first learn how to ride a bike, you don't know. And it's tricky. And while your desire and your motivation is strong, it pushes you through with things that maybe are bigger as far as like how you know how to do it, or the kind of the programs that you have running, or the muscles that you have strengthened, or the neural connections that you have connected. It's like the bigger the learning, kind of gap, the more excuses you have, because your mind is going to give them to you to keep you safe, you don't need to do that right now. Why, you can do it tomorrow. All of those things that we know that we come in. And so the idea is that, the only reason why anything is not happening is because you're not allowing it to. You're not giving yourself a strong enough why. If your why is strong enough, the how will automatically fill in. But the most important thing is you need to be clear about what it is that you want and why you want it, and remind yourself of that every second of every day, because that's how you start to shift quickly, is that you just stay connected to that why. The why is really always the feeling. Why do you want anything? Because of how it will make you feel. And if you keep remembering that, then you will close that gap, and the thoughts and the feelings and the beliefs will start to shift. And as you change your vibration and stay connected to the why, all of the things to support that why will come in. So say, for example, you want to be a better physical condition. Maybe you want to lose some weight, or you want to be healthier. If you stay connected to that why, then people in your life, activities, meal plans, like things like that will start to come in, and it will be much more fluid and easier for you. It won't be this huge frustrating thing. It'll actually start to be the next logical step, because you've already shifted to that frequency by staying connected to the why. So all of the cooperative components, all of the synchronicities, all of the like-minded people that are wanting the same thing that you want will start to come into your reality to help support that.
Can you give us some of your personal examples of holy cow moments? Like, whoa.
For me now, it's less about things and it's more about mystical experiences and spiritual connection.
Let's give us some of those back in the heydays where we're wanting to manifest the physical stuff, and then now to some of the spiritual stuff, like the mystical stuff.
Oh, I have so many. So I guess most people would probably relate to my car, my Tesla. So 5 years ago, this was before Teslas were super, super popular. It was right when the autopilot just came out and it really lit me up. I got very excited and the price tag of that car was over 6 figures. And for me, an investment standpoint, cars depreciate. It's not a smart investment. It's more of like play. And I just couldn't validate spending 6 figures on a car. But there was a strong desire and excitement about the car. It was just intelligence of the car and the intuitive ability, the speed of the car. Oh my gosh, so many things. So I started to have the desire. See, he agrees. Georgie says, we love that car. So I started to have the desire for the Tesla and I just got connected to the why I wanted it. And within 2 weeks, I had it in my driveway. And if you know anything about Tesla, you have to order it. It takes a minimum of, 8 weeks, It was just this natural synchronicity of events and so many things. That's one of my favorite examples because the car has been of all the physical possessions that I own, that's brought me the most joy. It's like a roller coaster and it has insane mode and the car has like so many fun things that I get to do in it all the time. And I'm thinking about actually selling it. That's why I'm bringing it up because it's fun to think about moving on to something better. The idea is that figures, I wasn't committed to spending that until I really got connected to the why and then I felt worth it. And then before you know it, I'm ready to go. I have the car in my driveway and I'm enjoying it. So that's just one example. What else would you like to hear? More physical?
Maybe one example that it didn't come as easily. It's something that you desire, but it's just like along that you learn certain lessons. Like this part I didn't execute as well. Maybe you knew it in theory, but you weren't executing it.
I'm going to give an example. This one's a really personal one, but I think this gives I want to bring both the spiritual kind of how we're connected and how we're always getting guidance. And then also one that's a difficult decision. So it would be my marriage. So I was married for 10 years, 12 years technically, before I had that feeling of even the idea that separation wasn't even a consideration. We had a very, very good relationship. We still do. And it was one of those things where something was guiding me and getting me ready for that moment of this is going to be a huge change for you because, we got along very well. We had a really, really lovely relationship. Most people were devastated, more devastated than we were when we separated. So I started to have a vision in meditation that gave me feeling like there would be a shift in my life. And that's kind of like the indicator that kind of knocked me off. What is that? I don't really know. And it was just like this could happen. I was really confused by it. I think that's something to bring up here because a lot of people will have a desire for something that's way beyond what they think is possible and doubt themselves, or they'll start to question things. And that's a good thing. So I want to mention that. That's a good thing. So before you get caught up in the, oh no, something's going wrong, something's going really right. Just be patient. And then slowly, it was actually his idea. It had to do with us and our kind of decisions of wanting to have kids. And I always knew I wanted to adopt and be a mom at some point. And he just thought he would get ready and he never did. And he finally just said, you know what, it's not going to happen. And it was something I had to check in and say, what do I really want? This has been something I knew I would want my whole entire life. And the other part of the consciousness and the spirituality, that wasn't his thing. He completely supported when I did it, but it wasn't something that he enjoyed too. And so there was this kind of like, gap that was getting bigger and bigger as far as like where I was and what I was doing. It was one of those things where you feel like this tug of war, this push and pull of like, gosh, I really love him. And we have so much comfortability together and we have such a solid communication. We have so much going for us. But there was this other tug that no, there's more for both of you. And you just have to trust that. And even though things are good, not that they can always be great because I don't want to be misleading, but there's always this, when you have that calling, you should trust it. So I had the Tony Robbins relationship event. I went alone. I had an intervention with Tony and I got some amazing insights. So he did the archetype with me where he asked me to connect to that inner wisdom of the queen and the lover and the warrior. And this beautiful, beautiful stuff came through. And it just started to lead into this huge amount of synchronicity to where that night I got a call from my ex-husband and he got like a really strong knowing. He said, we're supposed to separate. We really are. And I don't know why and I don't understand. And it was just like at the same time, the same night, it was kind of like, whoa, what's going on? But the most magical thing happened about a month later it was right at UPW. It was my birthday weekend, and I was still struggling with the decision because we were both feeling so torn about it. And I asked this is what I do when I need clarity on a decision. I asked my guides for a without a doubt sign. And I specifically give a without a doubt sign for option A or option B. So yes for this sign and no for this sign. And I had a little book that my friend had given me. It was like an animal spirit guide book. And so I just flipped the pages and I said, okay, yes for us to stay together, I got a hummingbird. And then I flipped the page and no for us to divorce, I got a dragonfly. And so I flew in the red eye. And so we arrive at the event, and my really good girlfriend was her first UPW. We're sitting there and she looks at me, and it was right before the event started. And she said, so what's going on? Like we haven't talked, what's going on with you and John? And I was like, well, actually I asked for a without a doubt sign. I just had told her, I said, to stay together, it's a hummingbird, and for us to separate is a dragonfly. And she said, okay, cool. And then 45 minutes into the event, we're at the West Palm Beach Convention Center, and the biggest dragonfly I've ever seen in my entire life flies over her head and lands right by my foot inside the event center. And we both saw it and we both started to cry. And I just thought, well, that's crazy. And I don't think I was still convinced. I was just like, well, that was kind of weird, like weird that it came in the event center. It was indoors. It takes like 6 doors to get inside. And it was in the main room. And we were sitting in the platinum section, like 3rd row from the front. And all of a sudden it disappeared. And then I look up and it's on the big screen. Like there's 6 huge Megatron screens in front of us. And
Wow.
It was on the backdrop of the stage behind Tony's head. And it was like a 6-inch dragonfly. It was humongous. And I just thought, okay, I think I'm good, maybe. And then it just didn't stop. So then that was the beginning. And then in California, we don't really get a whole lot of thunderstorms. So whenever I hear of thunder and lightning, I get excited. And somebody said there's a thunderstorm happening outside. So I go, oh boy. And I ran out there to go look, and it was kind of finishing up. And there was this beautiful rainbow, and I was just appreciating it. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to go back in. And as I did, I'm like, well, I should go to the bathroom because, with Tony events, you don't get breaks. And I'm like, it's logical. I'm up. I should do that. So I go up to the 2nd floor where there wasn't a line, and there was just 2 people in line, and this 2 girls. And one of the girls is crying. And I heard her say something about the rainbow. And I said, did you see the rainbow? And she goes, yeah, that's why I'm crying. And I go, why are you crying about the rainbow? And she goes, because I asked for a sign. I specifically asked for a rainbow. And I go, no way. I go, did you guys see that giant dragonfly on the screen? And they go, shut up. Did you say dragonfly? And I go, yeah. And they both raised their arm sleeves, and they had matching dragonfly tattoos on their arms. And I just thought, okay, this is getting good. Okay. And then the next day, it didn't stop. The dragonflies haven't stopped, by the way. So the next day, I had a friend that came, and the event was sold out, and she couldn't sit up in platinum with us. So they said, if people leave, come up to the concierge and we'll get you a platinum badge. So as I'm walking up, one of my good friends, you might know Mariah, says, Cherilyn, come here. I want to introduce you to my friend. I think you could help him. And I said, yeah, what's going on? She's like, well, he's having a hard time making a decision. I go, you know what I do whenever I have a hard time making a decision? I ask for a without a doubt sign. I go, I just did that before the event. And I didn't tell him what it was for. I just said, yeah, I specifically asked for a dragonfly for it to be yes or no, and a hummingbird if it was to be yes. And they said, shut up. Did you say dragonfly? And I go, yeah. She goes, you're not going to believe this. And she pulls up, and the logo for his company is a dragonfly. It's Ali'i Kula Lavender Farm in Maui. And I was like, this is getting good. And then the next day, it was just like, it didn't stop. The next day was the last day of the event on Sunday, or that was the last day, I think. And I was staying at an Airbnb, and there was a really sweet young man that we had allowed to come and stay with us. And I've been mentoring him, actually. And so he's asking me all these questions about spirituality and law of attraction and stuff. And I'm telling him the story. And as I'm telling him, a dragonfly comes right in between both of us and starts hovering right in front of my face, in between us both. And he just lost it. He just thought, are you like a crazy witch or something? Like, what is going on? It literally didn't stop. The dragonflies have not stopped since then. They just kind of are like one of my synchronicity tools. And it was one of the best moments was when I went home a week later. It was Thanksgiving, and I was so scared to tell my family because they loved him so much. They love us. They love him, of course. And I was scared to death what they were going to say. And so on the way home from the airport, I'm thinking, well, my mom is, if I tell her about the dragonflies, maybe, that'll help. And so I'm telling her about the dragonflies, and she starts crying, and I'm thinking, oh no, this isn't good. And she said, Cherilyn, turn around. And I'm standing in front of a giant display of Dragonfly IPA beer. And so that worked out very well.
Wow.
And then the next day when I went to go see my grandmother, who is extremely religious, and I'm telling her the same thing, I'm telling her the story, and sure enough, she's wearing, I can't see them until she pulls her hair back, she's wearing dragonfly earrings, and she hasn't worn those things for like 10 years. So that's an example of just the idea of like when you really open up and allow yourself to have guidance, and you want to experience a manifestation in the form of a decision or clarity or support or guidance, it's always there for you, but it's really about the clarity of your asking, of being clear about what you're asking for. So I didn't, a without a doubt sign means a without a doubt sign, but I wanted even more than that. I want, if it's a yes, I want this. If it's a no, I want that. And let the universe show you. Let the universe show you. Now, you can't be sabotaging it. You can't try to not get the answer. You have to be open to it and let it come in. And for me, those kind of manifestations are my favorite. Those are the ones that really excite me now.
Wow, what a story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
In our own personal journey, I remember we were on a road trip in New Zealand, and I was telling my wife for the first time how we could ask for signs from the universe. Mm-hmm. And she asked for signs, and she didn't tell me what she was asking for or what the sign were.
Perfect.
And then
smart girl.
and then so we stay in Airbnb, and she's folding laundry for the kids, and suddenly a ladybird flies out. And wow, you asked me to ask for a sign. Well, I didn't tell you, but I asked whether this homeschooling journey is the right for our kids, because especially amongst our friends and family, is unheard of. Nobody's doing it, and so it's very overwhelming for her. And then this ladybird, it never flies. She's never seen a ladybird. Like, she asked for a ladybird as a confirmation that we're on the right track, and just flies out of nowhere.
I love it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly more and more ladybirds started appearing in our lives, including buying veggies from a supermarket, and
Wow.
she's see a ladybird flies out again. It's never happened to her. I
love it.
From my personal perspective, in the traditional marriage sense, ending a relationship, because you guys are still great friends, it's not ending. And even if it's actually a bad breakup or whatever, who's to say that it's not going to become good later on? So we don't know. Decision. And I really honor you for having the courage to going through that versus just living by the society norm of what we should be doing, because we have a perception a marriage breakup is supposed to be bad. And it's funny you mentioned Mariah, because the last person that I heard from that is doing this holy moly type of decision is Steve Young. And again, Steve Young, I've never met him before. I've never talked to him before. Just randomly, came into my life through something.
Randomly.
I ended up asking him to be on my podcast, and from him sharing of him ending his marriage, kind of in very similar circumstances. Whoa, that's big. But similarly, his ex-wife, just one day, this is the right decision. Similar to your ex-husband. Just know the inner knowing is this type of relationship we are together. We're going to change form in how we're going to be together. It's amazing. Another funny thing is I've never talked to Mariah. I didn't even know about her until very, very recently after talking to Steve Young. Just before asking you, Mariah is the last person I asked to be on the podcast, and she said she'd come on in July. So... man, this is crazy synchronicity.
That's synchronicity. That's part of the fun, I think, is when you get into a place that synchronism is the way your life is completely organized. That's when it gets really fun. It gets really, really fun.
And it's almost like you before you try to control and anticipate what this day is going to be like, and let me try to, even using the power of manifestation, let me try to manifest and control it in this way. But nowadays it's almost universe, just take me on the adventure, just take me on the journey. And not saying that you don't manifest, you don't try to draw in what is deservingly yours, because you are the creator. But there's a sense of, if you watch a movie, you know exactly what each scene is going to be like. That's kind of boring, right?
It's more fun when you let the universe surprise and delight you, because the universe knows what you want. You've already put so much clarity of desire into that kind of bucket of desires. The universe knows what you want, but you just got to get out of the way to let it in.
As they say, like one door, if you don't close the door, another door is not going to open. I'm not going to use the same analogy because speaking it out loud, that's almost like there's a lot of words and limitation. Like who's to say that you have to shut the door? But in this case, you've moved something away, and this new space has something else moved in.
Oh, not a serious relationship. I've had a lot of fun dating. I have to say, even, my life, I've always had monogamous relationships. I never really dated. I've just kind of naturally went in from one relationship to the other. And this is the first time I've actually dated the last 2 years. So I've had a lot of fun. I've made some amazing friends from dating. I'm pretty clear about knowing right away of somebody that I want to be romantic with or just friends with. And that's been kind of a fun way. But one of the funnest things to do is to let my inner being do the swiping for me when I go on Bumble, because I have just had the most fun and interesting and just like amazing connections with people from that. And I'm enjoying it. I don't think I'm ready for anything serious. Not right now. No, I'm just having a lot of fun.
And tell me about what have you enjoyed about the non-couple relationship, like the singleness, like nights in the daytime. What have you enjoyed that you haven't enjoyed while you were in the relationship?
It's not the loner thing, but I'm an introspective person, and I really do like my time of meditation and stillness. And so when I want to be with someone and have company or companionship, it's like, I want that, but I don't want it all the time. And that was actually a really good mix that I had with my ex-husband. He was gone a lot. I got to just go and do events and spiritual trips and run around and, do my thing for 6-7 months at a time. And we would have our, communication as best we could. And then he would come home, and it was like we made the most of our time together. So we knew it was limited. So we really, really made the most of our time together. And I think that's, for me, it's kind of like the best of both worlds, where I really, when I'm with someone, I want the quality time to be really quality, and I want to make sure that we're making the most of it. I don't want it to just be this kind of like, you're there in my space and I just, whatever. I like being alone a lot just because I love reading, I love meditating, I love connecting, I love doing the things that I like to do. And then when I want to be with someone, I really enjoy that time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been about kind of just remembering, because I'm such a nurturer. So when I was married, I cooked, amazing meals every night when he was home. I really catered to him. I had a very clean and kept house, very appealing. And so I get to do that when I want to do it. And then I also get to just have just me time, and I'm devoted to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then what's your meditative practice like? Are you doing same thing over and over again? Are you just listening to music? Are you doing guided? Are you trying different things?
My nature is variety. I love variety. So I really can't do anything the same for very long. I would say meditation, stillness meditation is probably the only thing that I do consistently, whether it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 45 minutes. I do allow my mind to quiet. I do some, concentration exercises just to keep my will strong, kind of like exercise, physical exercise. I do mental exercises, but I change it up. So if I'm focusing on whether it's a flower and then holding that in my mind's eye for, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, it's kind of like holding your breath. How long can you keep continuing to do that? So I do some things consistently, but I would say the only things that I do that are consistent is I do stillness meditation, but the time duration changes. Sometimes it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Like I said, it just changes. Sometimes I do many other different types of meditations, but every day I do some sort of stillness meditation, no matter what that happens. I always do some sort of appreciation, positive aspects. That's just part of however that is, whether it's in walking, whether it's journaling it, whether it's saying it out loud in the shower. There's some sort of appreciation that goes on. At least, I do that throughout the day, to be honest, but that happens every day consistently. And I would say that's about the only things that I do consistently, but you add a lot of different things, and it just varies upon when and how that feels. I don't really do anything else consistently. My morning routine happens, but it varies with what I put in it. So my morning routine is usually about an hour and a half, and what I do within that hour and a half completely fluctuates.
Yeah, you're like me. I'm going to connect with you more, and we'll share notes on some of the new things that we try.
Because I like variety, and if I do something consistently for too long, I get burnt out. I commit to a 30-day challenge here and there to do for a support with other people, but for the most part, I like to mix it up.
Yeah. So with your concentration stillness exercise, I hear a lot of people talking about like staring into plants and eventually like maybe even closing their eyes and visualizing it as you've described. Some
Yeah.
people say that I don't know whether to continue staring, opening their eyes or closing their eyes, but eventually they'll see the universe through the plants. They'll connect everything as one. So, have you got more information or insight on what to do, or what is the benefits of doing this? What should I expect by doing, or maybe not expect? Do I just hold the flowers in my mind and until it's gone? And oh, okay, I've done it for X number of minutes. What's the actual process?
What is it that you're wanting? So are you wanting to have that experience
I have no idea. I just like I'm getting this intuition that this seems like something that I should be doing.
then that's where we get caught up. We want to know too much about it before we just allow. So just, if you have the intuition to do something, you just do it and you don't question it. And then you see where it takes you and then you keep following, right? So the idea of that is, for me,
Actually, I started doing it. I started looking. Am I doing it right? I remember like I didn't use the meditate until I went on the spiritual trip in India and with Tony and Sage, and after a big process, they say, just go outside and don't talk to anyone, just be. And like I went outside and I looked at, I started noticing the trees and birds and the river. And then it's like, after a few minutes, like, am I doing it right? Do other people know what they're doing? and then like I see Tony and Sage next to me and they smiled at me. And when someone smiles at you, you smile back just from politeness. Oh, okay. That was cool. Okay, what's next? What should I look at? Do other people know what they're doing? Because I'm not this meditative person. I'm not this stillness person. I'm always like thinking. And then a few minutes later, again, like they looked over at me and smiled. And again, you smiled. And it's like, and that thought came through. What if the purpose of this is just to enjoy the moment? Oh, wow. Okay. So I can do that. Like, okay, we'll just enjoy. But whereas before, it's like, let's achieve something. Is there an aim? Is there a target? Is there something that we need to be doing? Something that I'm missing? So right now, maybe I'm thinking along the wrong track. I'm looking at a tree. I'm not seeing the universe as one, but there was a moment of calmness. Am I doing it right? That's the question I have in my head.
That's the whole point of stillness meditation, is to get those thoughts of the monkey mind to stop them, so that you can just enjoy the moment. So you can just be in that connected, aligned place. And when you're in that place, it's just like naturally ecstasy and beautiful energy will just start flowing through your body, because you're open. Your valve is wide open to source energy. And so you have no resistance that's keeping it from fully just blowing your whole heart open, and you're just that full connection. That's why I say stillness meditation is my must. When you are able to just be still and quiet the mind, there's no resistance that can come through, and you're fully open to source energy, your natural, chi, prana, mana, whatever you want to call it. And that's when it's like you're just being. Everything stands still. Time does not exist. Then you're connected to the entire universe. You understand the infinite. That's what it is, infinity. And you get knowings and you get downloads and you get mystical experiences. And before you know it, archangels are visiting you and beings from other realms. And it just keeps expanding. But the idea is just like that. When you're being, you're completely connected. And when you're just being, you have no resistance. You're just in the moment, fully extracting everything that the moment has to offer. So if you're focusing on a plant or a tree or nature, it allows you to tap into that infinite universal energy in a way that's they're always connected to, and they really don't have any resistance, right? So when you use that as your mechanism of concentration, it's kind of like a permission slip, an easy target to get into that state, to get into that vibration and open up.
And do you see, is there a difference in staring into part of nature, or if I'm just staring at a plastic cup, does that make a difference?
It does for me. Now, it doesn't mean that it will for you. So for me, because I have probably a more of belief system about nature, and like I said, that nature is just no resistance, like trees, they just be. They don't go running around trying to get anything. They just expect all their resources, all the experiences, all the people, all the animals, all the beings that they want will come to them. They have no, right? They have no agenda. And so it's not like, that's just an example, but not all nature is like a tree. However, there is this this innate knowing that nature is this kind of natural, like it has this essence to it, this energy to it of no resistance in my belief system. So not that a paper cup does, but for me, a paper cup is more, it's man-made. It doesn't have that live energy flowing through it. It's consciousness, but it's different. And the idea though, when you're staring at something like a paper cup, is when you're focusing on it and you're not letting thoughts come in about it, you're not judging it, you're not having an opinion about it, or you're not thinking it's a small cup, it's a white cup, it's a blue, then the idea of focusing and concentration is that same thing. You're just focusing something so intently, you're not allowing your mind to drift or wander. And that gets you into that place of stillness, of just being. So any tool that helps you get there is the perfect tool. Doesn't matter what it is. For me, when I do it with nature, it's because I feel more connected and I feel more in tune with it's an exchange. Yeah.
So you sounds like a super fun person and a knowledgeable person to have around as a coach. Why do people come to you for your help or for your guidance? What are some of the typical clients that you work with?
I have so many. A lot of them are just wanting to they have probably 5 or 6 subjects that are going really well, but they have one that they just haven't been able to really get a good grip on, so to speak. Or, so many different examples. I have a lot of them. A lot of people come to me right now. It feels like the most people are coming to me for healings, a lot of physical stuff going on. Before that, it was a lot of work and changing careers and business and entrepreneurs. And then before that, it was relationships. So I go through cycles where a lot of my clients are going through very similar things, and I get all my business through referrals, so it just tends to be that way. Examples, are you wanting like examples of like they've accomplished from my coaching? Is that
that would be cool too.
Yeah. So a lot of people, always love the money stories, because money is kind of one of those things that most people want more of. That's one of the common denominators that you could pretty much ask anybody, would you like more money? And they would say, yeah. Money, I've helped create millions of dollars for people where, I've helped them just shift their belief of, most of it is about what you're allowing yourself to receive. And so when people come to me and they want a shift in their business or their career, they want income, passive income, it's just a way for me to walk them through shifting their belief system, because it's always about that. Everything you would have it if you expected it. And it's just about being able to build their expectation level of what it is they want. It's as simple as that. Everything is as simple as that. The relationship, the health, the wealth, all of it. So tangible examples would be, probably the funnest one was a client who got a $1.7 million deal in less than 24 hours after our coaching session. And he did the work. So he literally we were on the phone and he did it with me, and he paid. We actually did an extended session and he paid to do the work with me because the accountability. And we just built the belief so strongly. By the time he got off the phone, it was like his certainty level was at like 1,000. Like he knew, he believed it, he lived it, he owned it. He was breathing it, living it. We had so much momentum going. The next day he got the deal offered to him that came, of course, out of nowhere. It's like all those fun things. But that was 2 hours of work and it netted him $1.7 million. That's the fastest one. I've had so many other ones. I had a $600,000 one in a half an hour. I've had people manifest. One client had a huge estate that was completely donated to a stranger that he helped 17 years earlier and hadn't talked to since. Like fun things like that, where they just become open to, they match a vibration of expecting things, and then it's stuff like that comes in from there. Now that person that the other person's thinking to call, or it's just like the synchronicity that unfolds. Relationships, I've had everything from meeting new partners to resolving massive discordance and dissonance in a relationship, whether it's family or significant other. I've had massive relationship healings. I do a lot of work actually as a mentor and coach with a lot of foster kids and kids that graduate out of the foster care system. And one of probably the most fulfilling results that I get for them is learning basics of how to know their worth and how to understand that they can have anything that they want, that they can be, do, or have anything, especially at a young age. So those are probably the most gratifying ones, is to see them get into colleges that they thought there was no possible way, or to see them get jobs that they have no experience and no way, that kind of stuff. So those are probably not the people that are listening to this podcast would relate to, but for me, those are my most fulfilling probably clients. I don't get paid, but are still people that I work with.
I want to ask a question, especially when it comes to money and relationships. We may want like more money. If someone is making $1 million, they say, I want $1 billion. or someone is in a
Always another
relationship.
level.
Yeah, they want this relationship to work out, but that may be what the ego wants in their own life path, or what the universe has set up for them to learn or experience in this lifetime. It may be trying to guide them to something else, just like you've tapped into intuition. So how, when a client tells you that, hey, like I want something, like, do you try to just question that, is this really the right thing for not what you want, but what you need?
So first of all, I always usually have an intuitive reading, like with my clients before I even take on a new client, to say, I always check in, kind of ask my guides, like what's, I always set the intention, the highest and best good for them. I want this to always be a win-win. I want them to feel their power, to know their power. Like, I have these intentions. And so when I check in, sometimes they'll ask me for things that I absolutely am not in alignment with. And I'll just be very clear with them. Like, something feels off about this. I'm not the right person to help you with this. And I'll refer them out, or I'll just be straight with them and say, there is resistance here. And I usually own it. And I say, it's my resistance. And, and so this is what I'm feeling. And I'm just very clear about it. I'm not feeling like this is a good fit, and this is what's coming up for me. And I'll just be very, very black and white about it. So yes, that does happen. And it happens often because I think people, they want things, but they think how they're going to get them is for money, or they think the relationship is going to make them happy, when ultimately what's underneath it all is that they're not happy with themselves, or there's something lacking in their own, self-esteem. They think they need to get it from their partner, or they need to get it from their work, or they need to get it from the money. And a lot of times that will come through. That's the thing. But I also see that most of the time they can still have their cake and eat it too. They can have the money, and they can have the relationship, and they can have the accolades from the job. They can get all that. But first they have to realize that what they're really wanting isn't going to come from those things.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I guess the last question is, what is life about for you now?
For me, it's about extracting the most fun out of every moment and just making the most out of it all. So I'm really intent about life is meant to be lived to the fullest, and why would you live it any other way? I'm sure I'm guilty of not doing that every single moment, of course, but I do intentionally check in on a very consistent basis. Is this feeling good? Is this what I want to do? What can make this a little bit better? How could I, the way I get out of bed in the morning, like what's the most fun way I could do that? Or what, and so I'm constantly wanting to, because I've realized that the more questions that I ask and find, it's like my guidance system is always helping me look for things that feel better. And as I take the conscious decision to do that, life is just magical. The synchronicity is the way that I can serve people, the clients that come into my awareness, the people that I have conversations with. It just becomes more and more magical the more that I try to make the most of where I'm at right now, and just being happy with where I'm at right now. So
living in this moment and really enjoying it.
Yeah, even when you're in a moment of, with your kids, and there's chaos and there's craziness and there's tension, or something's not working very well, or you're stressed and you're in a hurry, there's a way to just take a moment and just kind of look back and laugh at it and just say, this is temporary, or we're all crazy sometimes, and we all get angry sometimes, and it's okay. And not to need it to change, not to need things to be perfect all the time. I'm not saying that at all. I don't want to be misleading. I'm saying to be comfortable with where you're at right now, and take the conscious decision to move in the direction of what feels even better. So you're always going to have things and experiences that aren't going to go your way. That's part of life. If we didn't have any resistance, we wouldn't have a physical form. So part of the choices that are presented to us are just choices. And it's really about our reaction to them that either allows us to get a positive outcome, or resistant and we give it a negative meaning, then we'll have a negative outcome. So it's about finding a way to find value and benefit out of every moment that's presented to us. That's really what my life's about right now.
So from a grander plan, why are we here in this physical form?
For fun. For the fun, for the discovery, yes. For expansion, for learning, for being, for having a question and getting an answer, or having a problem and coming up with a solution. It's all about the fun. It really is. I mean, if you look at it, even animals, if you pay attention, they're still doing fun things. Like, I'm watching this crow family that's befriended me, and the crow chicks, they just play all day long. Like, they don't want to really do much else than that. They just want to play. And I'm thinking, man, why do we grow up? Why do we have to get so serious? I'm looking at their parents, the adult crows, and they're just kind of like watching them and making sure they're safe, but they rarely play with them. And I'm thinking, why don't they just throw a leaf at them? Or, why don't they just have a little fun too? That's not saying that that's bad or they're not having, a great life being a crow. I'm thinking that, life is really about fun. It's about, and not necessarily always fun, but it is about the moments of feeling good and love and connection or kindness. It's about discovery of more of that and being more of that, because I think we all have, even from a baby, it's like if we're hungry, we know to cry and get food, it's like, because it feels good, and we know that it feels good to be held. And so we ask for that, and we ask for things that feel good. And so when I say fun, what I really mean is to find more ways to feel good, to find problems to solve because it feels good, to do work that drives you and that gives you passion and that makes you want to go to work every day, and pick a partner that you enjoy talking with and spending time with, and you know what I mean, and look for the positive aspects of everyone in your life because they have them. You just have to be trained to look for them and to show your kids that, and those are fun things. That's what it's all about. I think all of it is for that expansive fun.
Thank you for reminding me, because one of my my company's vision statement is we exist to bring happiness, success, and fun to everyone we encounter. And I used to wear these happiness, success, and fun t-shirt. But especially during these awakening experiences, at certain times it got to a really dark place. I almost forgot about the fun. It's like, why are we here? And like, oh, I'm feeling sad. Oh, let's just fully feel sad. And which all of them are beautiful in its own right. But when you said, why do we have to be so serious? One of my previous guests in his guided meditation, it kind of said the same thing. Like that line really rang true at the moment when you said it. Why does it have to be so serious? Like, we as kids are perfectly conscious. We're here to enjoy. We not learn and discover if we want. We can go and achieve and accomplish if we want. What if life is just as simple as just to enjoy every single moment and have the most fun that you can? That's beautiful. So thank you for your time and your generosity and sharing your journey and being so open with your personal experiences. If people want to follow you and want to learn more about you, want to connect with you, where should they go?
To be honest, I don't promote myself much, but if they want to connect with me at CherilynJones.com, I have a website. Friend me on Facebook or on Instagram. It's CherilynJones8 on Instagram and Cherilyn Jones on Facebook. But really, mostly people I connect with directly and personally. So that's pretty much the best way to connect with me.
Yeah, or trying to find your RV somewhere in America. That's how they connect with you.
It's true. Who knows? I have lots of friends to visit. That's the thing that I think I'm most excited about, is to just go in different little towns and places and explore. And, every place has hidden gems that only people that live there know about. And that's kind of like what I want to do. I want to go and just be and be somewhere for a week or two and just what's around and discover and explore, and then go to another spot and see what's around and discover. Because when else in my life am I going to have this much freedom where I can just go and be, and I don't have anything that's tying me down? I feel the calling to do that.
Well, I love to have my family just tag along with you, so I don't have to do the planning.
You said I love New Zealand, so I would love to do a North Island and South Island RV. That would just be phenomenal. So maybe when I'm done here, I'll see about skirting over to New Zealand. And
let me know.
Australia.
And my wife is going to feel a lot better that someone more experienced is guiding us on this journey.
Well, it is one thing when it's just you, but if you have like a whole another family to look after, it's kind of, you do want someone that has a little bit more experience. I get it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And I really look forward to connecting with you a bit more.
Hey, Gary, I really appreciated this. I enjoyed our conversation. You asked some great questions. Thanks for letting me share.